Почнемо.
Dear colleagues, let's start. Thank you for all those who came here. This is a very important event for everyone, and now you will understand why this event is important. Last week, the findings of nationwide opinion polling was published, and it demonstrated that Ukrainian society believes that mass media and NGOs fight corruption the best, and the illustration committee's work was the most demonstrative according to Ukrainian society. In this coalition, we also the citizens, when they unite, they achieve result earlier or later. The second thought is that anti-corruption activities during the last year, they were the most efficient in pushing the country forward. Several weeks ago, all representatives of those NGOs who are present here, we just gathered to talk about our next steps, and we reached the decision that the main focus should be on verification of data in the income and asset statements of bureaucrats. The verification is a very powerful anti-corruption tool. That is why the verification of statements was introduced into the illustration law and the anti-corruption law. But the experience of last year demonstrated that the society was more interested in using this instrument than the governmental bodies. The only efficient body was a group of MPs who pushed for adoption of the laws such as the law on opening the data from property registers. The works failed on anti-corruption efforts last year, and the formation of corruption prevention office is now been procrastinated. So last year the NGOs and mass media were the main actors in anti-corruption efforts, and we found identified those organizations who were the most active in anti-corruption activities. Thank you, Alexandra. Good afternoon, colleagues. Alexandra told about the research which was published on January 27th. Its findings demonstrates that the citizens see that NGOs and mass media are corruption fighters, but not the governmental bodies. And there was also one more research of international organization. And it also demonstrates that the governmental bodies do very few things in combating corruption. You know that there is a public register of asset and income statements. There are thousands of statements of the civil servants who chaired the ministries and other top-level bodies. This statement basis is of accumulative nature. and our colleagues took fantastic efforts, and I'm very grateful to them that they joined with us into the coalition. The main thing is that the statements also are compared with registers of business of immovable property. Thanks to open registers, many scandals took place last year, so many a governmental body, prevention corruption office, is at the stage of establishment, and it will be the main body in just preventing such things which we are going to talk about today. Our colleagues from Bila Tserkva deal with local level corruption, so that corrupt officers not just pay some fines but bear some more serious liability. Transparency International also monitors developments in this activity, and now we also monitor the activities of higher court chairman of Ukraine. Their top managers conduct unlawful actions. There are very many initiatives among journalists at the central, national, and local levels, but we also need several things. We need a powerful voice of general public when, for example, the leader of parliamentarian faction states that he is against disclosing his income because then he will need to disclose his assets, including his underpants. I have very many questions to him and people like him. Activists may do many things, but we cannot replace the government. We can just push and make pressure on the government, and our uniting into coalitions, we can do more. And we believe that corruption prevention office will be the main component responsible for punishment of corrupt officers. You now can see infographics where you can see what items should be disclosed in asset and income statements. The third, what we would like to make the tools user friendly. The illustration committee's activities are so influential that 50 top managers were illustrated, and they are now no longer decision makers, but other bodies, they conduct sabotage actions we as fiscal service and so on. So we use civilized methods and to push the reforms.
One more comment. Alexei said about 50 public servants, and we published top 50 that were avoiding lustration, and 42 people from this list were fired by the instruments of public effort. And this shows that the society and active citizens are the force that can force governmental bodies to do the right thing for the people. And about the lustration and we see that in our register there are more than 2,500 people, and in the Ministry of Justice there's more than 800 people were fired, and these registered are updated, and lustration continues. And we have a year for this, and we have a need to provide criteria for lustration, that this is important, and this is financial lustration, verification of statements. And I give the floor to my colleague Victor, and he will tell you about this in more detail. The Secretary of Commission that created the Anticorruption Agency, and now there's a second stage of selection of agency staff, and as of today, from more than 100 candidates that applied, we have 40 people with whom we are going to conduct interviews. And then we will select those 2 or 3 people who will work in the Commission. Why? Because today, you know that one of the members of the Commission, Viktor Chumak, said that he do not want to apply, and we don't understand how many members there should be, 2 or 3, to start the work of the agency. And during the session of the Commission, we proposed to introduce changes into the announcement that was carried out by the Cabinet of Ministers, in order that our Commission could select 4 members. But representatives of power didn't vote for this. They said we should select 2 people, and then we will have a second contest. And in this way, only in March we will get these 2 participants, but these are not 5, and we will have several months to get other members. And this tactics, it is done to postpone the activity of National Agency, Anti-Corruption Agency. But this agency should work, and work in the most effective way. And as to the statements, the amendment of Derkach Misik that was introduced in the budget, and as you know, the creation of e-statement was postponed, and they wanted to introduce the law in order to lift these obstacles. But till now, neither Cabinet of Ministers nor the present administration supplied the relative draft laws, and it shows that the power consciously do everything not to allow the EU declarations to be used, and this creates obstacles for verification of income statements and lifestyle of the public servants. And that's why we should create public pressure on the governmental bodies in order to create this procedure. And also last week they couldn't, they discussed this draft law, and maybe Sobolev will tell you about this in more detail. And the task of coalition is in several vectors. First, effective work and start of national agency work, and then pressure on people's deputies in order to introduce the norm that the public servants should make their statements public. And I give the floor to Tatiana, and she is a director of Media Right Institute, and she is a member of our coalition, and she is going to tell us about the direction of work that in the activity of coalition in order to understand the results we want to achieve. Good afternoon, everyone. Declarations, they are under control, and this is the statement that unites the best NGOs and the public. They ordered public audit of the assets of our civil servants. And people believe that NGOs fight corruption in the effective way, and we have support from the people, and we want to consolidate our effort, and we are united in order to coordinate our activity. Our organizations work in this direction. It is education of public activists, journalists, and also how to analyze the statements, the lines of these declarations, and how to write about the public servants, how to investigate their lifestyle, and this is for the journalists throughout Ukraine. And we also advocate, analyze information, and also provide some campaigns and illustration. And so these organizations, NGOs that have experience, expertise, and also network of journalists throughout Ukraine. So what are our main activities and what do we pay attention to? First, this is access to statements, and this is public information. And as we know, statements of some categories of public services that should be not only submitted in their place of work, but also they should be publicly accessible, and if there's no such website, so in the printed media. So this is about deputies, the president, members of the ministries, mayors, and also heads of settlements, judges of high courts, and also different public servants that work in the oblast centers, and these declarations should be accessed by public easily. And also in the legal sphere, we have some results. If we see at the Verkhovna Rada, they publicized the declarations, and also we analyze declarations, and also we monitor lifestyle. We pay attention whether these people hide assets of their assets or assets of their families. Maybe some money or some gifts were provided to them, or maybe they were provided by some money by a third person. For example, we checked in the declaration, we see that this person is dependent of the family because his family earns more than him, or they state that they have prizes for millions and know-how such as among judges that they inherited millions. So this is very interesting. And also we pay attention and believe that we can go outside current legislation, because there's no single register where all the registrations are placed. We will pay attention to the norms of the new legislation. What is meant by this? It means that except real estate and cars, and also incomes of the applicant and incomes of the members of his family, also we broaden the categories. You should state the co-founders or co-owners of flats, companies, etc. Also, you should state any expenses that is more than 20 minimal salaries. Also should be stated in the declarations. Valuable property more than 20 minimal salaries, and also lifestyle of our public servants. This is very important from the point that we see that there's no money on the accounts, but they use, for example, elite accessories, and they have villas, and also they drive very expensive cars. Also, we have a goal to clear the power from public servants who are not fair and honest. And also, we will use different methods and measures legally and then in communication sphere, and also separate activity is to verify and check the gaps in the declaration practice, that it should be we will find these gaps and then we will try to correct it. And these measures will allow us to reach our goals, to increase the accountability of Ukrainian public servants, and also the power will be cleared from the public servants who are not fair, and also it is good for fighting corruption.
Thank you, Tatiana. I would like to give the floor to Dmytro Chaplivsky. He is a co-founder of Stationary 100, along with other partners, established the register of statements which we are talking about, and all of us use it. Tell us several words how the declarations COM-UA will develop this year. Thank you. 1 year ago, we digitalized the first portion of asset and income statements, and we have already accumulated more than 18,000 statements, digitalized them, and made them public on our site. There's a titanic efforts of designers, programmers, and I don't want to repeat the so many efforts as we put in all that last year. That is why once the governmental bodies will digitalize the statements, or public servants will provide electronic format statements, then we will not, there will be no need to put so many efforts on our volunteers. This small scope which we have already digitalized is already very valuable. This information is used in investigations, and it gives rise to scandals and dismissals, and to political exposed person's website. According to Financial Monitoring of Ukraine, this website should be used by any bank, and when a bank conducts some transaction which is related to any MP, it could use this website to look for the assets or incomes of such an MP or other top manager of public service. So when electronic system of statements will work efficiently, but there is a kind of coalition which opposes establishment of corruption prevention office, and they try to postpone corruption combating efforts, and when the chair of the faction starts to interpret the law in a very voluntary manner and not understanding the nature of the law, and so it demonstrates that they try to breach the process of establishing the register of open declarations. The project started up thanks to UN funding. So very detailed statements will be published as soon as Prevention Corruption Office starts its activities. It will already have this tool and will be able to efficiently conduct their conduct their assignments. We need to unite, we need to make pressure and push and in advance detect the attempts to disrupt the process. Thank you, Dmitro. I would like to give the floor to Alexander Leminov. He is a co-founder of the NGO Center for Local Self-Government, but he is more known as a manager of reanimation package of reform. He will tell about the general goals of our coalition. Thank you. The goals of our coalition is to ensure public control of the publication of income statements and ensuring analysis of the statements both of these public servants and applicants, and also helping assisting to work for the Corruption Prevention Office. The fourth is to work out methodological materials and advertising campaign to engage civil society into verification of public servants' statements. Journalists, investigative journalists, activists, all other persons are invited. All members of societies can join us. We are contacting the coordinator, and also the last but not least is to highlight information and to press so that those persons whose lifestyle is too luxurious, they should be displaced from the top management of and now we are going to sign the declaration of coalition, and what can we do, what next steps could be. Several words. I would like to ask Igor Sobolev to say several words. I think that now in this hall we can see the all top managers of anti-corruption organizations, all main top managers of actual internal affairs bodies are here in this premises. We should prevent those people who lied in their income statements. They should be prevented from public servant offices. Last year we passed the laws which made open the income and asset statements, and also the law was adopted to even to open the data about uncompleted projects, construction projects. We will put every effort and we will use every method, including street protests, and our committee on combating corruption will regularly analyze the practices of adherence to the law on publication of information on registers of public information, because they are the key instruments. And my opinion is that there is a trend of property statement when the property statement, when the asset statement contains any lie, then a public servant should be dismissed. I would like to ask journalists today to emphasize who of MPs, which MP banned and prevented positive voting for the legislative provisions which concern registers of assets. Thank you, colleagues. I would like to congratulate my colleagues with this good initiative, and now we will have a solemn procedure, solemn part of our briefing. We will sign the coalition agreement, the coalition memorandum. Of course, it will be published so that all NGOs or persons who work in this sector, who is engaged in such anti-corruption activities, all those persons can join our coalition. How you can find us and who will be a contact person? Everything is very simple so far. We think that all of us are going to collect together all the proposals, all the comments. All of us will read, and the one who will be the first to see your message, he or she will respond to your comment or proposal. We would like that Misic and Derkach amendment is banned, and we are collecting statements, and we will proceed collecting the income statements of public servants and certain surnames or certain borders. We will, you just can order us to look into activities of some such certain persons, personalities. Everyone was waiting for this initiative, but there are no questions. Well, everyone is waiting for our results, for outcomes of our activities. This means that either everything is clear or nothing is clear. We hope for the first version. I have one comment. You know that we as a state procrastinate the process of electronic declaring statements, but the bureaucrats went to the offices to file paper form statements. That is why the bureaucrats wants to submit old paper form statements, but anyway we can request from those offices HR offices of their ministries, we can request from them those paper form statements to see what those bureaucrats have written them, what they have tried to hide there. And also we can ask the bureaucrats to submit their asset and income statements repeatedly. Believe me that voting or non-voting for this draft law will be one more test of those MPs. If electronic declarations process is not launched, this would mean the failure to observe one of the conditions for visa liberalization by April 1st. If we are not in time, if we breach the deadline, the visa liberalizations will be under threat. Now you can see the signed memorandum. I would like to greet all the participants and all its future participants. I hope we will soon see the results which we deserve. My congratulations.